So like I was telling you, my podcast has been traditionally a lot of veterans, law enforcement, fighters. Like that's kind of my niche,
Mm-hmm.
And when I go outside of that and bring different professions in and different experience, I always get a lot of positive feedback. So when I was coming down here, I mean, my wife has been stoked since I went to your restaurant last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you she's into food. That's like, she loves that stuff. She always has a top chef on in the house.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, you know what would be a really cool story is Mike, that guy whose restaurant you went to.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're right. Let's do that. You know? So I reached out to you and here you are. So thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I thought it was cool that you called.
So I'll tell you like how I kind of run the show is I let the guests have an opportunity, kind of introduce yourself, give a little background, where you're from, what you're doing, and then we just have fun with it. Take it from there.
Cool.
If it's an hour, cool. If it's 3, like whatever,
Yeah. I don't, as far as introductions go, I don't really know what to say. I guess I'll just kind of let you ask the questions and see. But like you said, I'm chef here in Los Angeles. You came to my restaurant Margot in Culver City, and I think tonight we're going to go to Nora in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And yes, served in the Marine Corps briefly before I became a chef. And I feel like my military time was pretty unexceptional. So it's, I think we may end up talking more about chef stuff than military stuff here. But I started out as a reservist, and until I got activated to deploy, that's what I did for a few years.
Okay. What was your job in the Marine Corps?
My MOS, I was a field radio operator.
Okay.
So yeah, went to boot camp, went to MCT, and then spent about 3.5 months in 29 Palms going to comm school. And then I was attached to an artillery battery.
Okay.
And then, but when I deployed, I got split off and paired up with an active duty MP unit from Camp Pendleton. And we were running like convoy security missions in Al Anbar. So that was our kind of,
Oh, man, I don't think we connected these dots last time.
No, we
didn't really talk about it.
Yeah, you were with Joao, and I didn't want to bother you guys during your meal too much.
Yeah, because El Ambar is where, I was in Ramadi for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So what years were you there?
It was 04 and 05.
Man, that's the bad years to be running convoy ops.
It was, but luck of the draw, like you kind of like you've talked about before, like it just never happened for me. We aside from some close calls with indirect fire, and we had one IED hit on our team, but nobody died, and that was about it.
Yeah, and dude, I always tell guys, because I hear that story a lot, because what happens or what doesn't happen is just a roll of the dice on deployments. Yeah, and if you came home and didn't get into any action, guess what? That's a good thing.
Yeah,
of course, like you train, you want to get in the fight. I experienced that a lot as a ranger, because I did several deployments and never even fired my weapon. Yeah. My first couple deployments, and I'm like, what the heck is this? This war stuff is, but at the same time, everyone came home safe, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I had a lot of angst about it for years afterwards, like I think like a lot of people do, like you're like, oh, I fucking missed my window, or whatever it was. And only in recent years, and partly from listening to your podcast and like Andy Stump's podcast and a couple other ones, I've sort of put things into a different perspective. And I do feel just like you're talking about. I feel lucky now. I feel grateful for the time that I did serve, but kind of realize that I'm only thinking about being able to sit here and tell war stories. I'm not thinking about like the other side, like, if I'd have been permanently disfigured or died or have a fucking ringing in my ears for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I got off pretty easy compared to the way, what a lot of people experience. So
no, it's like Andy always says, since you brought up Cleared Hot, being a Cleared Hot fan, if you touch war touches you back. Yeah. And so, and then the other side of it is like, it's just a crapshoot. You never know. Like I had buddies getting the coolest missions on planet Earth at the same time while I was sitting on an airfield doing QRF. And it's like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. But it's like anything in life. You get caught up in the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. You don't have the ability to affect change in that area. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Washington?
Orange County.
Orange County.
Yeah,
Okay.
Orange County.
I noticed you have a Washington number. So
yeah. So my wife's family lives in Spokane.
Okay.
And she moved there when she was like 15 or so. And her sister and her family live in Seattle. And we're on like a family plan. So when I got married, I got invited to the family cell phone plan.
Nice. That's some extra perks
Yeah.
working your way into the family.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when I saw the 206, I was like, oh, that's local to me.
Yeah.
I wonder what the story is.
Yeah, that's it. We actually we talked about moving to Spokane for a while. Pre-pandemic, that was kind of the plan. And I was going to open a restaurant there. But after the lockdown and after kind of seeing how different states responded, I was like, fucking, Inslee's no better than Gavin Newsom.
I know.
And like, what,
Well, and you know what, man? And it's funny because I'm trying to have like that last podcast I did with Paul. It's really I'm changing my perspective because it's like you can focus on Jay Inslee or Gavin Newsom and you can try and move to Texas or Montana. And a lot of people did that. And I know that a lot of people are glad that they took that step, right?
Yeah.
But this is my home, or this is your home. Seattle's my home. And I have so much going on there, just like you do. It's like, I'm not going to let one person or one party's views that I disagree with drive me away.
Yeah.
I want to stay and fight and do me,
Yeah.
Like I love Washington. So
yeah, it's kind of exciting here now. I kind of feel like that with California because we were ready to leave. I mean, I think a lot of people have been in that, pretty much everybody that we talk to that's sort of in the same place in life we are with young kids and just wanting something different. They're all kind of seeing the signs in LA in particular of where it's going. And it's like, where can we go? And so many people are moving to Florida, Texas, Nashville, wherever. If
you were to ever move, would you keep the restaurants here and have someone manage them, or is that even feasible?
I don't know. We'll see. We're talking about maybe opening some restaurants in other places outside of California, which would open up that ability for me. You know, right now, we're about to open a third restaurant here, so just having everything going on here, it's kind of hard to justify living out of state.
Yeah.
But I think once we kind of expand a little bit, then I'll have the freedom to maybe live somewhere else and then just travel for work. So
yeah. So growing up, like pre-Marine Corps, did you have any inclination that cooking was something you wanted to pursue at some point, or when did that become a passion?
So I went to this, I had some trouble in high school and I spent my seniors.
As we all did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you didn't, that you did something wrong, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But I ended up spending my senior year of high school in this school in Utah where they send you out to the wilderness for a month and then you're in basically like a youth treatment center doing school for part of the time.
Sounds actually awesome.
It was cool. I mean, I was going down, not the best path. My dad was a cop. He's a retired cop actually. And, we had this kind of power struggle thing going on, whatever, high school bullshit, teenagers, actually thought a lot about that period when, I think it was episode 55 of yours recently when you talked about like challenging the alpha.
Yeah. I think in as you sit here and tell me this, I'm just like, yeah, of course you had issues with your dad, because I feel like every single guy I know, that especially guys that are the type that would go into the military, if you're wired like that, like you're going to challenge dad at some point.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't end up very well.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, I wasn't
ready. He
ready.
sent you out to the woods, huh?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't ready to challenge him. It was more like, my house, my rules. And I was like, well, fuck you then. I don't want to live in your house anymore, know? But that, I think I was definitely, for the better. He sent me to this place and it wasn't by choice. They kind of detained me and took me because the detainment laws for youths apparently are different in Utah, or they were. So that's why a lot of these schools were out there.
I know another buddy of mine sent his son to one of those in Idaho. So
yeah. And I mean, for me, it worked out. That's what inspired me, I think, to join the Marine Corps, because I really enjoyed. I realized that I enjoyed challenging myself at that kind of that wilderness environment they had, and I sort of emerged as a leader amongst the other kids in that period.
How many people were there going through the program with you?
At least 100, I want to say.
Oh, it was
like So you get sent out to the woods in different groups as you arrive, and then periodically throughout the program. But there's like an actual school when you're not in the woods. And it's kind of like a cross between juvenile hall and like a high school sort of, like you're not allowed to leave and you're closely monitored, because there's a lot of kids there that, maybe were suicidal or whatever, heavily medicated kids. I mean, it's a big range of people. But anyways, yeah, like that inspired me to join the Marines. But also when I was there, like the food was shit. And I remember there was this guy that came in for a while. His name was Bob, and he was like the chef for the kids. And I remember coming back from the woods, and then Bob was suddenly the chef, and he had made this like soup and biscuits that was so much better than anything we had ever had at that place before. And I think something clicked in me that like, oh, food is cool. And like when you get something that like really, really satisfy you, there's something special about it. But yeah, I kind of remember that. And also when you got sent out to the wilderness there, you ate the same thing every day. So you would eat cold oats with powdered milk for breakfast. And then you would eat sunflower seed kernels and raisins for lunch, and you would eat rice and lentils for dinner. And that was it.
So I wonder if you were to have Bob's dinner right now, if you would still think it was delicious.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's funny how the taste of food is really relative to what you're going through or what you are currently eating.
Yeah.
I remember like in Ranger School, anything just was absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Even the grossest MREs that like right now you couldn't pay me to eat.
Yeah.
You know,
food becomes like the thing that you fixate on in those types of experiences because you have nothing else. Like you're not, getting drunk. You're not like, there's no girls around. It's like, so it's food.
I remember guys writing lists down like what I'm going to eat when I get back home.
Yeah.
And
then the MRE, trading and talking about, just over like, you got one shit thing that you're trading for another shit thing, but it all kind of makes sense there. So,
we're right in the middle of season 8 of Alone. Mm-hmm. That's like my favorite show on television. So listeners are probably sick of hearing me talk about it.
Yeah.
But they'll go like 6 days with nothing.
Yeah.
And then they'll catch a little trout.
Yeah.
And they eat every single piece of it.
Yeah.
And every bite, they're just savoring like, wow, this is the most delicious thing I've ever had in my life.
And it like gives them new life because then they can continue on. Yeah. I only saw the season where that one guy that killed the moose was on it. Like that was, it's pretty cool.
Man, they've had a couple. They had a guy in the next season killed a muskox with a knife. He ran up on it and was shanking it.
Yeah, that was the same guy that killed the moose. There was that badger that was stealing his fat, and
it was a wolverine.
It was a wolverine. That's what it was, and he got it in the middle of the night
and hit it with a hatchet.
So fucking savage,
bro. I saw that. Man, I watched that show. I remember when season 1 came out, and I was like, dude, I could do that. I think I could do that because everyone was just sleeping under a tarp and just sucking it up. They didn't have like skilled survivalists. Now you got people like that dude.
Yeah.
That build cabins and chimneys and smokers and
can nail a squirrel at like 50 yards with a trad bow.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like, what the fuck?
Dude, I know like I would still jump at the opportunity, but I would go in with expectations. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I can win. But just to go out and like isolate yourself for a while, that's appealing. You know? That's kind of cool. You got to do that at 17, kind of against your will, but you still gain some of the benefits of it.
I ended up loving that aspect of it. And, it kind of changed my life for the better. So
how long were you there?
The total school was like 9 months. It was pretty much my entire
That's a long
senior
time.
year. Yeah, they picked me up when I was 16, and then I turned 17 while I was there. So it really was I didn't have the normal high school experience.
Did you get any like weekends off or family come visit, or is it?
You would get some visitations. So like, once every couple of months, like, your family could come and you get to sit down and talk to them for like an hour though. It's not like you don't get to leave the place. Until the end, like the last month when you're about to graduate, you kind of get some more privileges and stuff.
Okay. I'll have to take the information down, threaten my kids with it.
Yeah. Well, that place actually closed down.
Damn.
I looked it up recently and it's closed. I think there was some legal issues going on there. It was some strange stuff. There was this one, he was like a nice old man, a jolly old man counselor there. And he got all these accusations against him for trying to touch kids, I guess.
Shit.
And he was
always a kid toucher that fucks it up for everyone. Right?
But I had an experience with it. It didn't feel threatening at the time, but thinking back on it, like he was trying to grab my dick, but he was making it as it was like playful, and it was in this room, and I ended up like sitting up really quickly, and I broke his nose, and then he was like, "Oh, it was an accident. Don't tell anybody." This, and it was, it was kind of funny.
So then, when you heard he got hemmed up, you're like, "Yeah, of course he did."
Kind of makes sense. Yeah, I didn't feel threatened by it, but I can see how someone else was maybe a little younger or whatever would.
Yeah. What was the age range that was there? Were there younger kids?
Yeah, it was like there may have been some kids. It was mostly like 15 to 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was,
but that can also mean very different things between different people, you know?
Yeah.
I have some like 14, 15-year-olds in my jiu-jitsu team that are like little tiny kids still. And then I have some 14, 15-year-olds that I'm like, you guys have to train with the adult class.
Yeah. Like,
because you're basically grown-ass men.
Yeah. Puberty hits different, you know, for everybody across the board.
So then that was what year? That was your senior year?
Yeah, it was my senior year. And then, so I got out of that school. I had enough high school credits to graduate, so I didn't have to do any more high school, and then signed up for the Marines when I was still 17 because I waited. I was going to wait until I was 18 to leave for boot camp, and between the time that I signed up, but before I left for boot camp, that's when 9/11 happened. So everything kind of changed. So yeah, this was 2001.
And then were you able? Did you expedite your shipping date at that point, or did you just everything?
I didn't. I was so the reason I joined the reserves to begin with was because my dad and his dad, my grandfather, they really wanted me to go to college. That was like a big thing. They're like, we'll help you out in life, do whatever we can, but we really want you to be pursuing education. So I was doing a semester of school while I was waiting to leave for boot camp.
Okay.
At a community college, and so I, the plan was to finish the semester. So I stayed, and I left in December of 2001.
Okay.
Or it might have been January. I don't quite remember. But
and then did the basic? I mean, do you call it AIT in the Marine Corps? I can't remember.
Boot camp. Yeah, boot camp.
Well, the next one that's like your MOS school.
MCT, Marine Combat Training, and then MOS school.
MOS school.
Yeah, and it was the one in 29 Palm. It was the Marine Corps Communications and Electronics school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, you were just back here doing the 1 week in a month?
Yeah, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year for drill. And I had a few pretty productive years then. I was training. I was going to school. I was working full time, and then, being a Marine on the weekends when I would go in for that. And then in 2004, we got activated to deploy.
Okay. Well, I guess going in post 9/11, you knew that was probably going to be the case at some point anyways?
Yeah, I was like waiting the whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like that. I feel like there's that plus a lot of times it's like always a bridesmaid, never a bride kind of thing. Where it's like always thought it was going to happen, and then like it just kept not happening. And then when it finally was going to happen, it's it was like, yeah.
See, dude, you had the right mentality as a reservist, because before 9/11, the reservists, a lot of them were just like, hey, I'm here to play Army and get the benefits and get the GI Bill.
Yeah.
And then when they started getting activated, it's like, wait a minute, what's this about?
Yeah.
So I always tell everybody that inquires about military service, if you're kicking the idea around of National Guard or reservists, go into it with the mindset that I will be deployed at some point.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking like, well, hopefully it won't be me, but I can still get the GI Bill, it's like you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, the world obviously changed during that period, but I still feel the same way now than I did then. Is like when I was thinking about joining the military, I talked to a lot of people that had been in the military. Mm-hmm. Some of them had deployed, some of them hadn't, and whether they said that it was for them or not, I never met a single person that was like, I regret doing it. I regret going into the military. So even if you were like, you did your 4 years or 6 years and then you're like, that was cool, not for me. In the big scheme of your life, like I'm really happy that that's what I did. Most of my close friends, I can kind of count on one hand, and they're all guys I met during that kind of formative period of my life. So
yeah, I tell people the same thing. It's like, the military, regardless if you want to be a war fighter or you want to go in to like gain educational benefits and like kind of use the system to set you on a path, there's so many different things and options that you can do. I know guys that became doctors through the military and became orthopedic surgeons, people that became special operations soldiers, like everything in between,
Yeah, so pilots, like what better way to become a pilot,
And so if you know what path you want to walk. Most paths you can use the military to get you there, and then you're not strapped in debt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sure, like the more you do with the military, the more you owe them back. But of course, they're going to get theirs on the back end.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So then you got out of the military, you did your deployments, and then were you done as soon as you got back from Iraq?
I still had some time left as a reservist. I had like a year left of being a reservist.
You kicked the idea around of staying in?
I did. Yeah, I definitely did. But I kind of found this cooking thing during that period. And then like having to go to drill on weekends became a huge inconvenience once I kind of like made this. I really liked cooking. Like I started doing it pretty shortly after I came back from deployment. I don't know why. I just like I was getting some bullshit degree at Cal State Fullerton, some fucking liberal arts degree that like wouldn't have done anything for me in life anyways. And you know, like one of the reasons I joined the military was just so that I would have more options because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I definitely kicked it around. I kicked around going into law enforcement. You know, my dad's a retired cop, and a lot of guys that I worked with during that period went on to become cops. But wasn't, I don't know. I found this cooking thing and it just worked for me.
That's cool, man. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm going to circle back to Iraq real quick.
Yes, please
because
do. Yeah.
Whenever we have a lot of veterans that listen to this show. So when guys deploy, I just like to unpack their deployment a little bit. I know you're in Ambar. Where were you stationed at?
Al-Assad was our main station. Yeah. And then, so a lot of the guys from my reserve unit ended up getting like the shittiest job ever staying on base. Like they made all these reservists base MPs on Al Anbar. So they had no law enforcement training, very little military training, but they made all these reservist MPs, and then you know they were making them enforce like garrison standards on this base in country, which would have been the worst fucking job.
I was just gonna say that's the worst fucking thing possible.
Yeah.
I know like when I was in Afghanistan, there was people assigned to be MPs to give speeding tickets on Route Disney, which is like the main road that goes through Bagram Airfield.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that would be terrible.
Yeah, so you got guys coming in like that are actually getting after it, and you're like telling them they can't wear their fucking boonie cover into the chow hall or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just so stupid. But yeah, I got selected to go join this other team, and it was like, that was another one of those like, all right, if it's going to happen, like this is the group of people that it's going to happen for, you know.
Yeah.
We were leaving the wire every day, running convoys, pretty much just like transporting gravel trucks and things that like they needed to build certain roads and things, and just to make sure that they didn't get hit. So I was on a gun truck with a Mark 19 on it. And
that doesn't suck.
Yeah, I know. But looking back on that, I think about, like I wasn't very well trained, especially like listening to some of the things you talk about. You know, I didn't feel like we got that same kind of training. So like we were out there going into potentially very dangerous situations, and we had never done any like direct action drills. We weren't really firing our weapons. Like I don't know. We just didn't.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah. But
and especially the Mark 19, because that's like one of the most finicky weapon systems in the military's armory.
Well, we would get to fire, like, you know, they had the little range before you leave where you get to do like
do your test fire.
And like half the time it would fucking jam.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like, hopefully that doesn't happen, you know.
And then the other thing about the Mark 19 is it's a fire from the open bolt position, right? So I feel like with that weapon on a gun truck that's going over potholes and bouncing around, if you have that bolt pulled back, the potential for it to slam home and send that thing flying is.
Well, we had a saw up top too. I mean, that was what he would mostly keep. But it had to be on the Mark 19, and
there were stories of when people like get inside the wire and they clear the gun. If they let that bolt slide forward, it sends the round.
AD.
And people were like blowing up. I heard a big pallet of Coke got blown up on Kandahar Airfield, like outside of the chow hall.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Initially, everybody thinks it's incoming, you know? It's like, oh, no, that's just an AD.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So mainly your convoys were from Al-Assad and then just around the surrounding areas, or were you going down to like Ramadi, Fallujah, anywhere around that? I know HIT was right outside of your guys' base.
Yeah, I mean most wherever we went, it was like 6 to 8 hours away.
We
went to a lot of different places.
That's all over the place then.
Yeah, I don't have a strong recollection of all the places we visited. Like it was long fucking time ago at this point. But like it's I mean it was a lot of desert. There was some spots where there'd be a little more going on. There was one run we were on where we ended up, there was a lot of traffic in this one area, and we like made a left turn, and there was another convoy behind us that kept going straight, and they got hit. There was like a lot of that kind of stuff.
It makes you wonder, is like, do I have like something looking out for me, or because the same thing. I went through several deployments, and it was like, our platoon couldn't get into shit if we tried. Yeah. But nobody was getting hurt either. Yeah. Meanwhile, other dudes are getting fucked up all over the place. So it's kind of bizarre. I felt like I was a good luck charm for a while. Yeah. Until I went to Ramadi, and then the good luck ran out.
The good luck ran out.
But it ran out for everybody in that city.
Yeah.
Just a shithole,
Yeah.
So then you got out, and you said you went to school and started thinking about cooking. What was your first step to pursue this career as a chef?
So when I first got back from Iraq, I worked briefly as a bouncer at this place in Newport Beach, and they had pretty good food there. And I was like, oh, it's pretty good. So I started talking to some of the chefs, and asking for what they would recommend, and they were like, you got to just start cooking. You got to get in there, and at that point, I'd still thought that, oh, you can go to culinary school and that makes you a chef, which is kind of a common misconception amongst people that aren't in the industry, because like culinary school is like going through, if you go to culinary school and then you think you're going to get out and be a chef or be able to run a restaurant, that's like thinking that you're going to go through boot camp and be able to
be a Navy SEAL,
lead a fucking battalion somewhere or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So is culinary school a step that you think is good or necessary, or would you recommend just start cooking somewhere?
I would recommend just start cooking somewhere, especially now. Like so many things, they've really dumbed down the curriculum in culinary school. And the lending is almost predatory. Like what they're charging people to go to these culinary schools only to get out and make like minimum wage somewhere. So
that's crazy. It seems like that's kind of the status quo everywhere.
Yeah.
Strap young people that are motivated with massive amounts of debt and send them out into the world.
Yeah. So I started culinary school. I did one semester, and I just felt like I was learning so much more on the job. And at that point I had already gotten an associate's degree plus another year of college. I had already done military stuff, and I was like, I don't want to spend another 2 years getting this culinary degree. So I was learning a lot more on the job.
Would the GI Bill have covered it had you chose that route?
They would have, yeah. Especially at like a community college level, they have some schools have culinary programs, and it would have covered it, but I just didn't. It wasn't practical for me. I was kind of just done with school stuff at that point.
I hear you, man. Yeah. So the place you were bouncing at, is that did you work your way into the kitchen? Is that or
no? I got hired. I just looked around, and there was a new. So granted, growing up in Orange County, I didn't really have exposure to any like fine dining restaurants. So I started working at a chain restaurant from the Pacific Northwest called McCormick and Schmick's. They were opening a new location. And that was my first kitchen job.
Okay.
And then,
man, I got to ask you, because when you go to a place like the Cheesecake Factory, and the menu is 17 pages long, how are those guys in the back, those guys and gals, prepared to? If you pick one of 200 different dishes, like, do you have specific chefs that are kind of dialed in on certain things, and you guys take turns, or how's that work? My menu is like 20 items. So, but if you go to a Cheesecake Factory, it's like they're cross-utilizing all the ingredients, and I would guess that the consistency is not always there, so it's tough to train people, but, they get busy enough to where they can have an army of people working back there too, usually. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm more of like a less is more when it comes to like what you're offering people. I think offer less items, but make sure they're the best quality you can make them, sort of.
Yeah. So at this place, what do you call it? Schmidt and
McCormick and Schmick's.
McCormick and Schmick's?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah. They started in Portland. It was like a chain seafood restaurant.
So when you get hired by them, I mean, is there like hey, you're going to come train for a week and practice all of our menu, and then
well,
you go live?
It was a new restaurant. So the good thing about being a part of a new restaurant opening is you have that period before they're open to just focus on training. So I got that, but I mean, it wasn't like anybody could have got that job. You know, it wasn't a good restaurant necessarily. Like, not that it was a bad restaurant, but it wasn't like the type of restaurant that I aspired.
Bro, I think you're selling yourself short, because I could not go get that job and cook food. I would fuck it all up.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, so I found when I first started that, you know, like work ethic and just the ability to keep your head down and like shut the fuck up and say yes chef, no chef, and just keep pushing, which is kind of like a military kind of like you treat it like it's boot camp.
Yeah, eyes open, mouth shut.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure out how things work.
Yeah, and I really excelled compared to most of the people around me, because you know, you get these other, like, I don't know, some bitch ass kid that went to culinary school and the chef tells him something and he's like making up an excuse or talking back, and it's like, you know, I don't know, it was much easier to get ahead. You know, I was able to outwork a lot of the people around.
Well, and
me.
bro, that's a good mindset to carry into any industry.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why like a lot of places like hiring veterans.
Yeah.
Because that's ingrained into us. You show up, your eyes are open, your mouth is shut, and you just grind and do your job.
Yeah.
And so like everybody else saw that and you moved up quickly.
Yeah, I moved up pretty quickly with them. They made me a sous chef after like nine months of cooking.
So I got to ask, because you always hear about sous chefs when I'm watching the Food Network.
Right.
But what exactly does the title of sous chef entail?
So the sous chef is like middle management. They're like, you know, you have an executive chef who is responsible for the culinary operation of the entire restaurant or hotel or whatever it may be. And the sous chefs are like the NCOs kind of.
Okay.
Like they, you know, so they have more responsibility than your typical cook. You know, maybe they're responsible for scheduling and ordering the product and things like that. And then they, you know, they have some oversight responsibilities as well. And then you have, you know, all the people below them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how long did you do that for?
I was a sous chef there for like 6 months, and then they were going to make me an executive chef of their location up in San Jose. So they moved me to San Francisco because they had one of their highest volume locations up there. And it was it was called McCormick in Colettos. It was slightly different than the other ones.
Okay.
But it was in a really touristy area in San Francisco, so they did really big numbers. So they wanted me to spend some time there before I went and took over this restaurant in San Jose. And looking back on it, I totally wasn't prepared to be an executive chef, but like, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So at that time, I thought that I was more than ready to take on that type of responsibility.
What makes you say that you weren't ready looking back?
It was just like, I didn't know how to fucking cook properly. Like I didn't know how to like, you know, properly. You have to work in a certain type of restaurant to really pick up like the kind of journeyman skills. You know, just like anything, like any skilled trade, like whether it's a plumber or electrician, like you have to spend some years like really learning the craft before you're ready to like take the lead and teach it to other people.
Yeah.
So, you know, while I was able to figure out their program, I still had so much to learn as a whole, you know, to be what I would have considered a real chef.
Yeah.
So I quit, and then I went and worked I wanted to go work in fine dining restaurants in San Francisco, because once I started eating around the city, I was exposed to like a whole different level of restaurants than I had been to before.
I see. Is San Francisco like known for being like a big food city?
Yeah, I mean, now it's known for being a shithole that's overrun by homeless people.
Hey, but, isn't that the whole West Coast?
Yeah,
but we still got nice restaurants intermixed between the tents and whatnot. And
I know.
The piss. Just dude, walking today, I walked up to Venice and got breakfast.
Yeah,
and like half of the walk, you can smell human piss.
Oh, it's fucking terrible. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But regardless, you got to go and kind of hone your skills with higher end dining.
Yeah. So I quit McCormick and Schmick's despite them wanting to make me an executive chef. I actually packed up and traveled to Thailand first because I just wanted to do some traveling. I really felt like traveling was going to be important to my path as well. So I packed up. I spent 3.5 months in Thailand. Took some cooking classes. I met a girl that like took me to a Thai girl. She was running the guest house where I was staying. And she was taking me around to like markets and restaurants that I wouldn't have gotten to experience otherwise. And I was training Muay Thai when I was there. I was pretty into Muay Thai at the time. And so some of the trainers at the gyms would send me to places because they knew I was into this food and cooking thing too. So I had a really cool experience in Thailand.
That's rad.
Food wise, yeah.
Did you eat any bugs while you were there?
Yeah, I had some bugs. I bitched out when it came to eating like a scorpion. So I couldn't do it. I thought I was going to do it, but I had some crickets and some grub worms and things like that. But scorpions and spiders, I just couldn't do it.
I don't know if I'd do the scorpions and spiders either.
Because it looks just like a live scorpion, except it's like not moving. Like it's like shiny on the outside, and it's like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I actually did eat a scorpion one time.
Yeah.
But it was. You know how they'll put them inside of like lollipops?
Yeah.
That's cheating though, right?
Yeah.
Because it just tastes like a big crunchy piece of candy.
Yeah. I've seen that before. It's like a tequila flavored lollipop or something.
But to have it just like on a stick.
Yeah.
And for anyone that hasn't seen those videos, they're kind of fascinating. Like the food markets in Thailand is like bugs are a big source of that culture's protein.
Yeah. And why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
Like they're there, you know?
But the American culture, like, the thought of eating bugs is most people are disgusted by it.
Yeah.
But I've actually ordered some protein bars that are cricket protein.
Cricket protein. Yeah. I've seen that.
just to check it out. But I grew up with like monitor lizards and like all of these animals in my room. So I always had crickets, right?
Yeah.
And when you would eat that protein bar, it would kind of smell. It reminded me of the taste. Or the taste reminded me of the smell of my cricket tank.
There's something like just particularly like earthy about it.
Yeah, and I was like, that's just not doing it for me. You know?
I remember when I first saw that cricket protein come out, and it's kind of being advertised as like the protein of the future.
Because it's very sustainable, right?
Completely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cockroaches, they say that like cockroaches are going to outlive humans. Like, you know, when we're all fucking dead and gone.
They'll outlast us through the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be the cockroaches left. So someone's going to start eating them and, you know. Anyway, so where were we? Thailand.
Yeah, you went to Thailand as part of a kind of you knew you needed to do it for your own personal growth.
Well, I just wanted to. Yeah, I was actually like, I don't know. Yeah, I was, I wanted to travel a little bit. Like, yeah.
Did you fight while you were there at all or just train?
I did one fight.
Okay. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I did one fight. It was like a amateur, like village fight kind of thing. So it was kind of like a smoker match. But, and I knocked the guy out in the second round, but I outweighed him by like 25, 30 pounds probably. So I don't really like.
Was he another Westerner or did he fight a Thai guy?
No, he was Thai.
Okay.
He was Thai. But I mean, I think he's like, you know, they have Thai guys there that like, you know, they kind of just sit around and drink whiskey, and maybe they trained when they were younger, you know, and fought when they were younger. But he wasn't like I wasn't fighting at Lumpini Stadium or anything. You know? It was just like But yeah, that was cool.
Don't those kids fight? You always hear that the Thai kids will fight like every weekend.
Yeah.
So they'll train all week, and then fight night is like Saturday night, and that's just part of life.
Yeah, and at the gyms, like you see it, like they don't train, like they're not trying to beat each other up in training because they need to save themselves so that they can make money on the weekends when they fight.
Okay.
So they grow up like, you know, you'll meet 15, 16-year-olds that have had hundreds of fights under their belt, and that's just like their life. If
you watch like, what's his name? Sanchai. Like you can tell he's having fun when he's training.
Yeah.
It's not that, because I've done a lot of sparring at MMA gyms around, you know, the West Coast.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even though they're your friends and you're having fun, it's a fight.
Yeah, it gets competitive.
You know? And then if someone clips you a little harder than maybe they wanted to, then you want to clip them back a little harder.
Yeah.
And then sparring can turn to fights.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. I've always thought that was cool about the Thai culture, because they're like, they fight so much. They're not going to get wrapped up in that in training. And it seems like they know how to dial it back.
Yeah. Well, and Muay Thai is also the national sport there.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, it's not like this underground thing for people where only rough people do. Like everybody grows up watching Muay Thai, and gambling is a big part of it. So it's less about like lot of it.
And playing those weird instruments while people fight.
Yeah. And the Y crew, like the dance, the ceremony ahead of time. Yeah. It's got a whole culture surrounding this.
Did you ever kick down a banana tree?
I do that every day. Yeah, every day.
Was that Buakaw, right?
Yeah, that was that was Tom Poe from the Kickboxer movie with Van Damme. But I think I think Boer Cow maybe
did it in real life.
In real life, yeah, just to kind of take on the movie thing. But yeah, I never saw anybody doing that. But that guy Boer Cow's a badass too.
He's savage.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Then you got back from Thailand and
and then started working in. I'd planned on traveling for longer, but a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I'm going to open this restaurant, and I want you to be the chef." And again, still wasn't ready for that, but I thought it sounded like an amazing opportunity that I had to take. But that ended up falling through, and then I started working in fine dining restaurants for like really demanding chefs, and like kind of had that sort of coming up period.
So when you go from, I'm going to mess the name up again, Schmidt and
McCormick and Schmidt, don't worry.
And then you're applying at a fine dining place. Like, do they bring you in as a sous chef? And then,
no. You can if you've been a sous chef,
if you have that resume
at another comparable restaurant. But at the time, like going from being a sous chef at McCormick and Schmick's doesn't mean shit for a fine dining restaurant.
Got it.
So
okay.
I started off as a line cook. I really, they award Michelin stars in certain cities, and it's like a standard of excellence, if you will. In San Francisco, they don't issue stars in all cities, but San Francisco has a lot of Michelin-starred restaurants. San Francisco, New York, Chicago, like big cities like that, they issue these stars. So, my goal was to work in a Michelin-starred restaurant, but I wasn't getting callbacks from any of them at first. And like the hiring landscape was a lot different back then. Right now, it's like you can't find staff to save your life in these really expensive cities like LA and San Francisco. So I mean,
no one wants to work it. Is that what you're saying? It's hard to fill positions right now.
Yeah, post pandemic, but even before that, it's like there was a sort of boom where everybody was opening restaurants, and there was a big boom in the industry, and you just can't afford an apartment on a line cook's wage in LA or San Francisco.
Yeah.
You just like with the wages you earn and with how expensive the cost of living is, it just doesn't quite add up. So it's not a viable option for a lot of people.
Do you have high minimum wage standards here?
Yeah. In LA. Yeah. LA is one of only 2 states. I think the other one is Washington where they don't have a tipped employee credit. But we have a very high minimum wage, which makes it tough.
Yeah, because a good friend of mine owned restaurants in Seattle, and I don't remember what the name of it was, but they said once that legislation was passed to raise minimum wage to, I think, $15 or $16 an hour, they ran all the numbers in their books, and they're like, we can't sustain this business anymore.
Yeah.
And so they developed an exit strategy and went into real estate, and they're very successful in real estate now.
Yeah.
But they're like, they were smart enough to see the writing on the wall and develop an exit strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they said that industry is tough.
It's tough. Yeah. People, like so many things, the people that make these policies have no fucking idea.
Of course.
And they're putting the lens of other businesses onto a business they know nothing about. So they're like, oh, just pay people more, you'll be fine. And it's like, they have no idea how many people it takes to make the thing run the way it should.
Or what kind of budget you're operating on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's weird how I feel like the government, since they don't earn any of their own money, they just take everybody else's money, that they're very out of touch with reality on how money is earned.
Yeah.
And to tell you like, oh no, you have to pay this guy this much. The reason I think it's bizarre is because you as a business owner, someone comes in for an interview for a position and you say, hey, I'm willing to pay you this much. They can say yes or they can say no.
Yeah.
And if they think you have shitty wages and one of your competitors has better wages, you would think the market would correct itself, right?
Well, and that's it is. Like now we're paying way above the mandated minimum wage just because it's been hard to find people, and it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
So the market does correct itself that way, and it's like that's how it should be. But that's like so many things. Like
Yeah. Let's keep this podcast on cooking.
Yeah.
We could easily slide into bitching about the government.
Well, we can. You're here just in time for the new mask mandate, so I hope you brought your muzzle to wear around. And
bro, I got here on. What did I get here on? What, Friday? No. I got here on Saturday morning.
And they passed it Saturday night.
And it went into effect Saturday night. Yeah. I actually went into a pot shop just to get a gummy.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, hey, I know this is stupid.
yeah.
But you got to put your mask on to come in here. And I didn't even think to bring it,
Yeah.
Because I was walking down the boardwalk outside.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I don't have one. He goes, you can't come in then. I'm sorry. And I was like, fuck, dude, I forgot California went back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun in restaurants when you have hundreds of people coming in, and every one of them you have to tell them to put their muzzle on their face, to walk 10 feet, and then sit down at the table, and then they can take it off.
So what's happening because California was hard on individuals and businesses that did not fall in line with the mask mandates, right? Were they fining the shit out of you guys, or how does that work?
Well, we were shut down for a lot of it. Like restaurants, restaurants are easy targets because we're already at the mercy of so many like regulatory bodies. Mask mandate or not, at any time a health inspector can walk into your restaurant, or an environmental safety inspector or whatever, and find a reason to shut you down if they wanted to.
So the government can pull any loophole they want.
Yeah.
Because I heard up in Washington, they were using like the Liquor Control Board to shut restaurants down that were out of compliance with COVID. Yeah. And it's like those two things seem kind of unrelated.
Yep. But
they have measures they can take.
Yep. And that's exactly what it is. Because if if they fuck with your liquor license and you're still selling liquor, you're a felon. So it's much, that
becomes serious.
Yeah. So if they can take away your occupancy permit if you're not complying with whatever they decide you have to comply with. And then, like for us, we sell like 40% alcohol to food. So it's,
that's a substantial part of your business then.
Yeah. And even if you're like, okay, we're not selling alcohol, so we're not felons. It's still like they can make your life miserable. They can make us want to operate. So yeah.
Did you just make the mask mandate part of the business just to not have to deal with any of that shit?
Yeah, we have to. I personally have never told a single person to wear a mask. Like I just, fundamentally, like how can a human being tell another human being you have to put a fucking cloth over your face, or you can't work, or you can't earn a living? You know what I mean? Like,
no, I love that, man. That's the truth.
But it is, so I'm like a partner in the business. I'm the culinary director of this company, and I have a profit share of the business, but we have a restaurateur who is my boss. I only have one boss, which is cool, but he's my boss. And, we just have to tell people to wear masks, like staff and whoever, like they'll come shut you down. It is what it is. It's like, I'm not in a position to be a martyr. I wish I was, but,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Everybody has to play the game to some extent to sustain life, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're willing to not sustain life anymore, then you can be reckless. But that's fucking. Yeah. Everybody has lives and kids and families and mortgages, and it's like.
Yeah. Well, I think
fucking
that's
dicey.
That's why so many people, I think like look up to you, why your platform has grown so much, because like there's this respect for like fuck yeah, like I wish.
Saying fuck you feels good.
Yeah, it feels really fucking good. But yeah, like say, I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm the only one working. It's like there's only,
Yeah.
But that's the problem. That's what police officers are saying too. They're like, well, I got my, retirement.
Yeah, but it's also if you decide to. What you enforce is very different than what police officers are enforcing.
True.
Because it's your private establishment, and
you can come in or not come in.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's very different than violating people's rights.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think police officers are kind of bound by duty to stand up against it.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I'm hopeful that this thing is winding down. Fuck, you hear a new variant's coming, and then you hear like mask mandates back in effect here. Have they said like, is there any kind of projection, or is it just, hey, it's back into effect until further notice?
Yeah, exactly. It's like rising numbers, so the mask mandate is back in effect. Like that's what it is.
Got it.
And then there's the people that are like, oh, the new variant, and that kind of buy into it. But I like. So my dad lives in Thailand now, and they're completely shut down still.
Oh, really?
They opened back up, but they're like fucking like full on, like you can't travel there. If you travel there, if you travel into the country, you have to quarantine on Phuket Island for 2 weeks before going anywhere else. And no, you're not allowed to go anywhere else except Phuket, but it's like fully shut down. Like no,
Did they get hit really hard? Do you know, or is they just reacting with
cases,
unreasonable amount of fear like everybody else is?
Well, I think it's all unreasonable fear personally.
I do too.
And it's like,
here's the thing that I'm going to let everybody in on a little surprise right now.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like between now and then, obviously, if you can mitigate stuff, we mitigate it.
Yeah.
But to just shut your life down and stop doing the things you love and stop pursuing your passions or your career, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like when you guys were initially shut down, what date was that? Or what month was that?
It was March.
Okay.
I believe.
And then you guys got the green light to open back up at like quarter capacity or something. Is that what happened? That's what happened in Washington.
We got the green light to open back up with outdoor, or no, we got the green light to open back up. Yeah. With limited capacity. And then we got shut down again. And then we got the ability to open back up with outdoor seating only.
Well, and luckily your restaurant, at least the one that I went to, has a substantial amount of outdoor seating.
Yeah, we came out pretty well. Because the moment we were allowed to serve people outside, we got busy and stayed busy the whole time. And I mean, I think a lot of places in LA, but like look at like Spokane, where we were thinking of moving. Like it was, what are you going to do when it's snowing outside?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they were shut down through the entire like fall and winter. So
I'm sure you have lots of friends in the industry. Like, how many people lost their livelihoods through this? Because I mean, I can only imagine what the rent or mortgage is on your building.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, we stayed okay because we weren't down that long. And our landlords in Culver City were really cool. And,
That's awesome.
And gave us a break. The landlord in West Hollywood, not so much, but that one cost a little less than the one in Culver City. But yeah, a lot of people, it was tough. A lot of restaurants, nobody that I'm personally friends with, but a lot of restaurants that were kind of like big openings for that year. They just didn't make it through because there's so much initial capital invested in these things. And then, they're like, we can't put in what it's going to take to reopen this thing.
And then also, what about you're not going to be able to pay people while they're sitting at home.
Yeah.
And
we had to let the whole staff go. So.
And then just hope that when it becomes feasible to open back up, give them a call and see if they're available. Yeah. Did you find you had a pretty big turnaround, or did a lot of people come back?
A lot of people did come back, and then some people didn't. It was about like half the staff that came back.
Okay, that's a decent amount then, I guess.
Decent amount, but then we started getting busier and busier, and all restaurants did. Just within the last like 6 months or so, or I don't even know if we've been open for 6 months. Time flies, but however long it's been, the last few months, and that's when there's just been no staff. I don't know if it's because people talk about the unemployment bump, how everybody's sort of just getting unemployment still. But
I've heard a lot of people talk about how it's almost like people realize they can do nothing and make more money than going to work.
And I feel like it's more than just the unemployment, though. It seems like there's been this shift in how people view work. Like it seems like there's been this shift, and a lot of people now just sort of see it as optional, or that it's acceptable to use the excuse of being afraid of a virus to like not go to work.
Not going to work used to be paired with not eating and not having a house.
Yeah, poverty. Yeah, now it's like, well, the government will just take care of, never mind when you're going to have to pay that money back or what it's going to do to us in the long term. We'll just sit back and get our checks. And so that's kind
of crazy.
It's getting a little better now, though.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So your two locations was Margot the first one?
No, Nora was the first one.
Nora was the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. How did that come to fruition then?
So, all right. So going back to San Francisco a little bit, I worked in some fine dining restaurants. I worked in a Michelin star place called Boulevard, which is a great experience. I moved to Nantucket, and I spent a year working on the East Coast in New England. That's where I met my wife, and then moved with her to Portland. I lived in Portland for about 6 months, and then I moved to LA from Portland and kind of started setting up roots here and working my way up. I became a sous chef at a place in Venice, and then a chef de cuisine at one of their sister restaurants, and then I took my first executive chef job at a place in Sherman Oaks in the Valley. And the owner was like fucking crazy. He was just like toxic, like cocaine, like every kind of story you've heard about crazy restaurant owners. Like this guy was
a poster child.
He was like a caricature of all those things. Like, yeah. So that I was trying to get out of there, and then I ended up meeting the restaurateur that owns Nora and Margot, and Nora wasn't open yet, so he brought me on. He had another chef that he was planning on bringing on, but he had somebody working as a consultant for him that was like, hey, I know another guy that I think would be a better fit. And then I did a tasting for him and, got the job. And then.
So you literally they sit down to enjoy a meal and you kind of just bring your A game and cook what you want? Or do they kind of have a direction that they want the food to go in?
And that sometimes is the case. If somebody's like, we're looking, we want to open an Italian restaurant, so we're going to bring on chefs to, cook Italian food. But this one was very much, he was like, I want to open a restaurant with a cuisine that's personal to you. So I want you to cook me your food. And and
I guess that's best case scenario, right?
Yeah,
because you get to bring your strengths and not have to try and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so. And, I put together a pretty good spread because it obviously worked. And he, I was nervous because he's like, he travels the world and eats the best restaurants there is anywhere. He's been doing that for a very long time and very, very high standards. And it's helped me become a better chef too, in the years that we've been working together. It's been 6 years now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was one question I wanted to ask you is when you're starting up these restaurants, what process do you go through to develop the menu? Because that kind of seems like that could be a very difficult process.
Yeah. Well, so with Nora, I really wanted, and Nora's changed a lot over the years too. Like last year we put in a wood-fired oven, so now we're doing these like wood-fired pizzas. And in 2019, I got to spend a month in Italy, in Naples, and I was attending this pizza school. So
legit pizza school.
Legit, yeah, in Naples, which is the birthplace of pizza in Italy. So that was really cool. And now we're doing, we're doing pizza there now, and we didn't used to do pizza at Nora, so it's changed a little bit, but it's not necessarily Italian. We still offer a lot of kind of new American cuisine. But when we opened Margot, we were focusing more on Italy. And with a little bit of Spanish influence. And our next restaurant is going to be a French restaurant. So now that we have multiple restaurants, we don't want them to all feel the same.
Yeah.
So, we're being a little more focused with our concepts.
Do you know the location of the new restaurant?
Yeah, we're actually partnering with the landlords of Margot. And it's going to be attached. It's right on the other side of the parking structure at the platform.
Oh, okay.
Where it is. So
cool.
Yeah.
I guess that's convenient for you then, being able to, because will you be bouncing back and forth?
Yeah. So I have like chefs that are kind of the number one in each restaurant. And then I kind of bounce back and forth. It's sort of a weird transition because, you're the chef of a restaurant and you're used to just being there all the time. Like, seeing every plate that goes out and being very involved. And then, you have to focus more on training and implementing systems and things like that to just keep the consistency and the standards, but you can't be in, multiple places.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that because it's very military-esque. Like the higher you move up the chain of command, the more hands off you are.
Yeah.
And some guys like that, but a lot of guys hate that because a good analogy is as a door kicker, you're only a door kicker until a certain rank.
Yeah.
And then you don't kick doors anymore.
And then you're dealing with fucking paperwork.
Yeah, exactly.
At a certain point, you're basically a politician.
Yeah.
If you get high enough.
And so do you find that now that you're in a very high up position, do you ever miss either being on the line or being in the kitchen? And
yeah, definitely. I mean, I make it a point to be very active in the kitchens when I am working there, but it's, So
you still get to lead from the front then and kind of show the team.
I do.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, people still consider me the chefs of the restaurant. Yeah, they do. I work, some nights I'll go and I'll work a station next to somebody. I can still do that, which is nice. As we get to 3 and 4 restaurants, I don't know if that'll be the case, but right now I'm still involved enough to where I can jump into any station and work alongside the cooks and do that. Yeah, it definitely gets harder and harder as you move up.
What would you say? When I was at your restaurant, I was just watching so many people back and forth, bringing foods, taking orders, filling drinks. logistically, running a restaurant seems like one of the most difficult tasks on planet Earth. Like, what would you say is the biggest challenge in making an operation run smoothly?
Yeah, it's hiring and training all those people. One of the most difficult things is there's so much turnover in restaurants because our hiring pool is like, 22 to 30-year-olds mostly. And in LA especially, they all want to do other things. Nobody's just like, oh, it's rare that you find somebody that's like, I'm working in this restaurant and this is my career and this is what I want to do and I'm going to be with you for like 5 years plus.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So it's a big turnover.
It's a constant turnover. And then
everyone's here to be actors, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, every new person you meet, you're like, what do you do? They're like, oh, actor or writing. You're like, oh, how unique. There's nobody's doing that in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, also just thinking like, I sometimes think about other careers and like, how many people do you think have had to like fire people and had to do it a lot? Like as a chef, you're hiring and firing so much. Like I've just had to fire countless people, and some of them try to fight you. Some of them, talk shit on their way out. Some of them cry.
They don't know that you used to be a Muay Thai fighter.
Well, yeah.
That shin kick's coming.
I mean, I do like, I'm like, I've lost like 40 pounds in this last year, but I'm like 220. I'm not like, I don't think I take shit that a lot of other people might.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, bro, that's actually, I like that you said that because I always tell people learning to fight. I don't care what your industry is. I don't care if you work in an office or you're a law enforcement officer, you're in the military. It changes the way you interact with people.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have a different style. You have a different level of confidence. You have a different, it influences your leadership abilities.
Yeah.
And now I can add restaurant owner to that, right? Because I mean, even if your staff has no idea that you used to be a fighter, a lot of people I think hone in on it just based on like energy.
Yeah.
You talk shit to me and I'm not intimidated at all.
Yeah.
And they pick that up.
And it also brings a humility too, because you kind of know where you stand. Like I've done enough jujitsu to know that you could fucking kill me. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
yeah, but I'd have to watch out for your elbows.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. So anyways, but what were we talking about?
You were saying just having to hire and fire people.
Hire and fire people.
One of the biggest logistics.
All that is like, that takes its toll where it's like every week you're like, you need to hire more staff. And then somebody, and you get a lot of people that just quit with no notice. It's hard to find dependable people in these like big city type environments, where there's just, a lot. Not everybody's looking to do that for their career, for life. So
yeah, if a couple people don't show up unannounced, that fucking impedes the operation, huh?
Yeah, well, it's like, that's sort of the story of a chef's life is like, the customers are coming in no matter what. At 5 p.m., whenever it is, you've got to be ready to serve hundreds of people. So, whether you have employees call out sick, some nights it's that perfect storm where it's like, oh, we're not going to make it, you just
Dude,
push
it
through.
Seems so stressful.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like stress is relative because everybody interprets things differently. But I think I would rather be in a gunfight than have 40 hungry people pissed off because their food, like just thinking about that would give me anxiety.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I feel like in the, in the early stages of my career, like when I was working as a cook, I would like, there's something about working in a busy station where you're so in the moment, like you would be in a gun battle. Or I think that's why some people are addicted to like surfing, or a lot of people that like chase whatever dragon it is.
So they call that like the flow state.
Exactly. And when you're working in this busy kind of high pressure environment, and you're actually executing, there is that state, but you're really in the moment because all you can focus on are the tickets coming in, the food that you have to cook, and then you do it over and over, and there's a constant time crunch. So you don't have time to have your mind wander into other places. And I think that's one of the things that attract a certain type of people to the industry. And it's hard work. It's kind of a hot, uncomfortable environment sometimes, and that's actually like within the last few years, there's been kind of the lens put on the restaurant industry like, they're taking like a lens they would put on a corporate setting and putting it into the restaurant industry now. So it's, all the, females are underrepresented. Like that's been the big, one of the big sort of like talking points amongst food writers is that,
does that mean they want you to have more female chefs?
Well, they're saying that chefs, that being like the chef world is a male dominated profession. Right. But it's like, nobody's talking about the fact that like that could just be because of the work. You're working nights and weekends. It's hot. It's sweaty. You know what I mean? You're standing over in front of a stove over a board cooking for like 8 to 10 hours. And it's like, nobody's calling for more females to be represented in like the plumbing profession or the, electrician profession or any of these other like manual labor jobs where you're kind of working with your hands.
Well, and I would assume this, like not even knowing you, if you put out like, hey, we're hiring this position and a female came in who's just a killer and cooked you good food, like
100%.
You'd have zero reservations.
One of my best,
her,
one
right?
of the best employees I've ever had. She started working for me she's an 18-year-old girl. She became my sous chef. She was an opening sous chef at Margot. And she worked for me for about 4 years, and she's been one of the best employees I've ever had. Like but it's like, you put out an ad for staff, like 1 out of every 50 is female.
Yeah.
It's like it's the nature of the work,
Mm-hmm. But it's your fault. You're not hiring
we're
females.
all sexist.
You're sexist.
Yeah, we're all sexist. Yeah.
Like just stay out of people's business,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter what the profession is. I don't care if it's a fucking military, law enforcement, or a restaurant, especially even more so in a restaurant, because it's part of the free market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to assert your own personal biases into your restaurant that could potentially hurt profit. Like, you want the best person for the job.
Yeah.
The best person to make this business be as highly functioning as it can, right?
Yeah.
So it's just strange that like every industry gets hammered by all this stuff,
Yeah. No matter what. I mean, you can't win now. Like,
yeah.
Just before I came over here, I was just reading about like the stuff that's going on with Black Rifle Coffee, So
let me, I actually saw Evan post, I was scrolling through Instagram and it said his like reply, and I saw the meme that it was like, what did it say? Like Black Lives Matter or something on Black Rifle Coffee.
I didn't see everything. I just saw like basically like,
because it was all internet bullshit, I guess.
Yeah. All internet bullshit. But it's like, that's kind of what happens now is something starts spreading, whatever the narrative is, right? Whether it's like, they're not right enough, they're not left enough, whatever it is. And then it's like, suddenly you have people having to make explanations because, there's this like massive uproar over what I'm assuming was ultimately nothing. Like, I didn't see the initial interview, but I've like listened to Evan speak enough times where I'm like, all right, I think he's a pretty good dude.
He's a cool motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I went down to their headquarters and did their podcast with them.
Yeah.
And you get a vibe, Plus I have a bunch of mutual friends with him from when he was in the military. Mm-hmm. But it's like, as soon as you become successful, everybody's just waiting for you to slip up.
Yeah.
I remember when Evan, somebody asked if he would sponsor Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he said, we're not interested in doing that. And everybody went nuts on him.
Right.
And they're like,
you have to take a side.
Yeah, why didn't you? And he said, listen, you know why I said no to that is because that kid is going through a huge legal procedure. He has the potential to lose his freedom and go to jail for the rest of his life for murder.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't want to like hop onto sponsorships with people and potentially make it appear that I'm trying to profit.
Yeah.
By bringing Kyle Rittenhouse on board. He's like I'm not going to profit from his situation. Yeah. That's dirty, but people just, they don't critically think about things. They scroll and they see some.
Well, it's also a coffee company. Like why should they feel any pressure to do anything aside from like sell their coffee?
Well, exactly. And regardless of if they chose to sponsor him or not, and if you like that or you don't like that, like go start a coffee company and sponsor him then.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just don't buy their coffee. If it bothers you that much,
vote with your dollar. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta tell you one thing, because we're talking about food and restaurants. I walked up to I think it's called Great White in Venice.
Okay.
Have you ever ate breakfast there?
No.
It's fucking legendary.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where in Venice is it?
Oh, it's like, do you know where the big traffic circle is in Venice?
Yeah.
It's literally a block away to the west.
Okay.
But it's a breakfast place. And as you can tell by my garbage can, I've just been doing Uber Eats since I got here.
What have you been hitting? What kind of bags am I going to find in there?
Chipotle.
Yeah.
But dude, it's like making me feel like a piece of shit because I was like, dude, the fact that you could just sit in bed with the television on, you push a couple buttons on your phone and then your food shows up. Yeah. I was like, you're fucking lazier than shit.
Yeah.
So this place is like a mile away and walked up there and it was really good food.
Nice.
But I made the mistake of walking up to Venice yesterday on the boardwalk and it's just gross, man.
Yeah. I don't make it to Venice much. When I first moved here, I was working on Abbot Kinney. Have you walked down that street at all?
No, I haven't.
It's a really popular street for restaurants and retail in Venice. But yeah, I don't know. The last couple of times I've been around, it's like, why would you? And I feel really bad for people that own homes around there because that's beachfront property, like multi-million-dollar homes, and then you get a third world cesspool that just pops up.
And here's the thing is like there's different sides to this issue because people want to be compassionate and people they feel bad for these people. And it's like, I get all that, but it's to the point now where we've let this grow into a monster and now they're having like tent fires.
Yeah.
And it's burning people's houses down.
My chef de cuisine at Nora, he lives in Koreatown and K-Town. His car got set on fire because of a homeless group's fire. Like, it's like
it's a real thing.
Affects your life.
Do you follow that Instagram Street People of Los Angeles?
I've seen enough clips where I'm sure I've probably seen some of the same clips off of it.
Dude, it's crazy. And here's the thing. It's like we have all of these, I mean, the government drives me nuts, but we have all of these fire codes and restrictions and procedures. And like you as a business owner, if you don't have a fire extinguisher at the right location, like it's a problem, right? Yeah. But then if you're homeless, you can just do whatever you want. It's like you can't have it both ways. If we're going to have safety procedures into effect, they need to apply to everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been thinking about this, kind of a random thought I had.
Let's hear it.
About the homeless. Well, so, we talk about like individual freedom a lot, right? And then, so, something I thought about is like, if I wanted to like throw a tent up and sleep somewhere and I wasn't committing any crimes, like I would want to be able to like to do that, right? So I think about like the sort of the philosophy of liberty and how it applies to homeless people because we all want to do something about it. Nobody really has a good solution for it.
No.
Like what do you think about that?
Well, this is what I think about that because I've thought a lot about it too. These people are not like, hey, I worked at Boeing and I got laid off and now I don't have anywhere to sleep, right? Because as a police officer, I dealt with the homeless population on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And we need to call it what it is. It's people that are addicted to heroin and
drugs.
methamphetamine.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not anything else. It's not people that got laid off or people that are unemployed or people that couldn't pay their mortgage. It's none of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It is people that are severely mentally ill or people that are highly addicted to methamphetamine or heroin. And so, in my opinion, it's actually more inhumane to just kick the can down the road. Let these people, like these politicians probably have no idea that, and I've seen it with my own two eyes, these people get so, the throes of addiction get their hooks in so deep of them that they will just lay on the streets and piss and shit their pants and they can barely move. Their body starts to rot. They have sores all over them.
I drove by that just the other day. There was a woman sitting there shitting herself and wiping her ass with her hand and just like looking at it. And just like,
so you want to say on one hand, like, hey, these people, we have to respect their rights and their individual freedoms. And they'll paint the picture like they're trying to that's taking care of these people. It's doing the opposite. It's not taking care of these people. What I would say, if you want to actually make change, start getting these people into addiction treatment centers that is not by choice. We have to legislate things and be like, hey, if you're laying on the street shitting yourself, we're going to take your ability to choose away. Yeah. And we're going to force you into help. And I mean, I don't know if I just did a podcast yesterday with a guy who's a Navy SEAL and they're using ibogaine treatment. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
For PTSD and TBI. Ibogaine treatment has actually shown to be a huge success for addiction as well. There's a documentary called Dosed, and it talks about a girl that was addicted to heroin. It follows her journey for 18 years. And she did the ibogaine treatment, and she's stone cold sober now.
Really?
And so I just think we need to kind of start thinking outside of the box. And we also can't allow, because when you talk about freedom and liberty, right? I think our freedoms and liberties shouldn't be infringed on until our activities start to infringe on other people's freedoms and liberties.
Yeah.
Right. So I as a libertarian, you want to sit in your basement and shoot heroin? I don't care at all.
Yeah.
If you like methamphetamine, I don't care at all. If you want to have 2 husbands and 2 wives, like, I don't care at all. I think we need to arrive at a place where you do you and I'll do me. But now when we just allow people to do them and they're shitting in front of your businesses.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do you deal with that at all? Do you ever have like...
We've literally had our front door step shit on a number of times.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, why should you as a business owner who's on the grind, you have staff, I mean, we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes about all of the challenges that you're facing as a business owner. And now you have to wipe shit off of the front of your building. It's unreasonable.
Well, I suppose if we're talking about individual freedom, like, we as citizens should also have the freedom to do something about it ourselves. You know 100%. What I mean? But if you take that away from us, and then you have a bunch of people that aren't contributing, like, you know, I think there's kind of a social contract, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm a business owner as well, and I own a gym, but luckily for me, I decided to build my gym in kind of a rural area, and I put it up in the middle of a field on 4 acres. And so, like, when
that's like my dream. Like,
yeah.
Being stuck in LA, just surrounded by people all the time. It's like, it just wants space.
And then, well, I also got 30 acres out in the mountains too. And so
I saw that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to attending Guns and Geese.
Nice, dude. I was going to say, you ever come to Seattle, I'll take you out there and we'll do some shooting.
Yeah.
But, so I haven't had to deal with much. I've had a couple methamphetamine addicts on my property, stealing stuff, causing problems. But bro, I promise you, like, if there's ever a problem with fucking tents or homeless people on my property, I'm going to handle it in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But this is what's not fair about it. Because guys like us, we're still young enough, and we both were fighters, and we have military backgrounds. Like, we're capable of confronting conflict. But when you have I watched a 70, like, an old lady who had a candle shop on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And, like, she can't go out there and deal with the problems.
Right.
She's going to need to rely on our first responders. And so now that police want to help those people, but their hands are tied now. And now you're to a point where if you deal with the problem personally, you might get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And the police, it's the same thing. If they go deal with the problem, like, the system does not have their back.
Their hands are tied.
And I've told the story on the podcast plenty of times. The majority of misdemeanor crimes in Washington State, if you do good police work and you arrest someone and you file charges or you present the paperwork to the DA to file charges, more often than not, they say, hey, thanks for doing your work and thanks for presenting this case to us. But unfortunately, we're going to decline charges at this time. Please don't allow this to make you not want to, like, don't let this affect your motivation to continue to go out there and do good police work.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that sounds good in an email, but how many times can you do good police work and then just have it fucking thrown in the trash can before it does start to affect it?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of cops that are like, and I'm sure it's happening down here, but in Washington State, the profession of law enforcement is drastically changing on July 25th because they've changed a lot of legal verbiage. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's people that don't understand the profession. Mm-hmm. Like when we were talking about the minimum wage, that are trying to make changes that affect the profession.
Yeah.
And so I don't see it getting better before it gets worse.
But yeah, I'm kind of worried about what the future of law enforcement is going to be in a lot of these places, because it is the same in LA, I'm sure. I was actually, a buddy of mine works for LAPD, and he was just talking about some of the things that have changed since the new DA came in. he was working in the gang unit, and he was telling me that his sole job before was to basically get guns off the streets. Like they would go to places where they knew that there was guns, and they would make arrests and get guns off the streets, and that all stopped. And now that unit has been like disbanded. Like, so it's like so good people that actually want to make a change, they're not going to want to do the job. And then who's going to get hired, right?
Yeah.
I just like
nobody wants to do the job anymore. The good people don't want to do the job anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, in your story, like, doesn't even surprise me, because they're always talking about guns, 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 guns. Well, what you should be doing is getting guns out of criminal enterprises, illegal guns from gang members,
instead of making laws that take away legal guns. Yeah.
But they're focused on, the bump stock or this many rounds in a magazine, and they're always focused on rifles.
Yeah.
Gangbangers with pistols is the overwhelming majority of homicides in our country.
Yeah. And how many of them do you think went and bought their gun legally in a gun shop?
The answer is 0.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because they're always talking about like gun manufacturers or gun dealers. It's like, they're not selling to gangbangers.
Yeah.
That's not how it's working.
Yeah.
They know they'll get fucking crucified if they do that.
Yeah.
And so who knows, man? But it's just as we continue to move further and further down fucking this crazy path, I feel like it's going to be harder and harder to turn the ship around,
Yeah.
But maybe we need to do that. Like, maybe shit has to get so crazy for people to see with their own eyes that it'll start to change the trajectory, and people's opinions will change and voting will change. And I guess that's what we hope happens, right?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't happen, it's going to get violent at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like we're kind of at the point where
I feel that way too.
We can't use our words to reason anymore, because things have become so unreasonable.
Yeah,
and it's hard to,
And the people that are pushing all of these unreasonable narratives, they still live in gated neighborhoods and are making $300K a year.
Yeah,
so it's easy to. I mean, it's like you said earlier. It's the rules for thee, but not for me.
Right, and I see that like. I'm surrounded by more people that are on the other side, like with restaurants in LA, like West Hollywood in particular, and it's hard to listen to, it's not even worth engaging most of the time, because, every time like people that are anti-gun are just anti-gun, they don't want to hear any statistics. They don't care. They subscribe to the idea that guns kill people. And if you just make guns illegal, then everything's going to be peachy keen, but
this is the biggest thing that's bizarre to me about that is, well, do you want police officers to have guns?
Yeah.
Do they? Because if they agree,
in Britain and Australia,
yeah. But most people don't have issues with police officers having guns.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, why does a police officer have a gun?
Yeah.
To protect the lives of themselves or others in a deadly threat scenario.
Yeah.
That's why.
Which happens
to people that aren't police officers.
Daily. Yeah.
To people that aren't police officers too. And the thing about this is the bizarre thing that I don't understand. Police are 99% of the time, they're reactive. Mm-hmm. They are not proactive.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say they're not proactive. Cops go out, good cops are proactive, right? Mm-hmm. But when things go bad, when there's an armed robbery or break and entry, the police responding are reactive. Yeah. That means someone's in your house for an undisclosed amount of time until somebody with a gun decides to show up and save you.
Yeah.
So if you think that that's a good thing, it's like, okay, I'm going to be in my house until someone with a gun gets here to save me. Well, why wouldn't you decide to be that person with a gun?
Yeah.
Get trained up on it, buy quality stuff and understand how to use it. And then you be that person.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody's more comfortable with everything being delegated now. Like as a father, if someone came into your house, can you imagine saying, I'm going to wait for the cops to get here to protect my children?
Yeah. You guys just sit there, let them take whatever they want. All right.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's like, are you out of your mind? Like men have been protecting their family since the dawn of mankind. We're no different.
People think that way though. I mean, I've had conversations where people give me, I'm like, cause I took my, one of the guys I work with shooting, and then somebody else that we work with, was like being very condescending about the whole thing. I'm like, you're about to get married. Like, don't you think you want to maybe be able to protect your home? And it was just this very condescending, like, oh no, I'll call the cops. Thanks very much. But it's like, we saw, I had like far left, like Rachel Maddow watching employees that were like wanting to buy guns during the pandemic.
Of course.
It's like, well, so the moment these people experience something that truly scares them, they're going to be singing a different tune. But I think so many people are just so far removed from it
and you know what? Like, good for them. Like, that makes me happy to hear because that shows like they had that aha moment. And that's really what we should be providing to people, you know, is like trying to facilitate that aha moment. But I'll tell people this too. If you think you're going to wait for the cops to come and save you, there are cops that could come and save you. Mm-hmm. Those cops exist. Mm-hmm. There are also cops that can't get over a 4-foot fence and shoot their weapon one time a year. I'm not exaggerating when I say we had plenty of people that graduated our 3-day pistol course that shot better than many police officers that I know.
Yeah.
And so if you think you're just going to wait for the cops, that could go very bad too, because it depends on which cop gets dispatched to your call. I know right now, if you were to tell me, hey, someone's going to break into your house tonight while you're in Los Angeles and the local PD is going to handle it. Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I'd be on the first plane from LAX, that I am not confident in my local jurisdiction ability to protect my family. And that's not talking shit on any of them. Like that's not saying a bad thing about any of them, but I have very high expectations. I think if you're going to be a police officer and you're going to protect your community and you're going to get paid by your community for that, they should be able to have expectations that you can shoot your gun, that you can climb over a fence, that you could pick up my child and run 6 blocks to ambulance, those kind of things.
Yeah, but like so many things now, it's like, if we can't find enough people to meet the standard, we're just going to lower the standard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in so many things.
Well, and the biggest thing about law enforcement that people are afraid of right now is they're always looking for someone to string up and make an example of.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are at your job or how passionate you are about it. At any given day, if you misstep even a little bit, they're coming for you.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that world, 99% of the time, what you deal with as a police officer is you're not operating in black and white. You're operating in the gray area.
Yeah.
And you're trying, I think most cops operate in good faith, meaning they're doing the best that they can, but you still fuck up. Mm-hmm. And with qualified immunity going away, if you make a mistake that's even still in good faith,
dude, that's going to be a nightmare.
Good luck.
No one's, I feel like with that, it's just like, we'll buy police work. You know what I mean? They're going to maybe save their own lives and that's about it. Like,
and the thing is, it's like, it's almost like it was divine intervention getting me out of the profession when I did.
Yeah.
But there's no way that I would do the job today. Like Washington State banned chokeholds of all types. And it's like, dude, choking someone out is the most humane way to end the fight. Like as a Muay Thai fighter, like, okay.
No, I've been choked out before. I've been choked unconscious and you wake up.
And so would you rather get choked out by a jiu-jitsu guy or would you rather get crow-copped? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just people that, again, that are not in touch with reality, legislating these things.
Yeah.
But our families and our communities are going to ultimately be the ones that suffer from it.
And that's what kind of worries me the most when we talk about, we're going to really need to see things get bad before they get better. It's like when you have kids, you have so much more skin in the game. And I just, I wish that wasn't the case. And it's also tough in LA because, listening to you and Mike Glover, any other number of people that talk about preparedness. And I'm trying to do a little more, little by little on that. But it's like, if you want to carry to protect yourself, you're a felon. It's really tough to get a CCP.
It's almost impossible.
You can't get it. So it's like, I don't know.
It puts you in a tough situation because if you do go ahead and decide, well, my children's safety outweighs the risk of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But then you're in Target and someone sees your gun print in your shirt and they call the police. Man, think what that's also going to have the same kind of effect that you're losing the ability to be the father that you want to be now that you're a felon. Now you can't own a gun in your home.
Yep.
It's just madness, dude.
Yeah.
Well, fuck politics.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's go back to cooking for a few minutes.
Let's talk about food again. What else you want to know?
I want to, it's funny, in my last podcast, the guy said the same thing. We were getting pulled down to different rabbit holes, just like you do in podcasts. And he's like, fuck that. Let's talk about sharks again. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I agree. Let's do that.
Nice.
But I would like just tell people about where your restaurants are at, kind of what their themes are, what they can expect if they were to visit them, and just give yourself a shameless plug.
I don't feel like I need.
Oh, I guess if you're busy enough, it doesn't fucking matter, right?
The places are both busy, but yeah, Nora in West Hollywood, it's a new American restaurant. And I don't know if, I don't know. I suppose your listeners would like to come in, but I don't know if many of the people that live in West Hollywood would love all the conversations that we get into, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I feel like but I don't know. I'm surprised every day by meeting more and more people that are like just like us and that just want something better for where they live.
No, I think the overwhelming majority of people are probably, regardless if you lean left or lean right, they want the best for their kids. They want the best for our communities, and like, we shouldn't be hating each other over those differences. But I feel like the vocal minority is what we hear and see all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless, I don't know, have you had people throwing down in your restaurants?
No, it's just, like anywhere else, it's become so much more toxic, and I'm like, it's like, if you say the wrong thing, you're going to have a bunch of people protesting out front of your restaurant or something and setting up a picket line, and, you never know. But yeah, so back to the plugging. Nora in West Hollywood, it's new American cuisine. In my opinion, some of the best wood-fired pizza in Los Angeles. That's a bold statement because there's a lot of pizza in LA, but we kind of have a joke that because everything all travel to Europe shut down pretty shortly after I went to Italy to train. So we have a joke in the kitchen that we're like the last of the last generation of like officially Italian trained pizzaiolo in the kitchen,
and no one else will ever get that again.
Yeah, exactly. And then Margot,
silver linings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then Margot in Culver City. Kind of a coastal Mediterranean restaurant, a lot of handmade pastas, fresh seafood, things like that. And then upcoming Juliet in Culver City as well, which would be a beautiful French restaurant.
Yeah.
And then I actually, before we sign off, I kind of wanted to ask you something. So I really want to go to Guns and Geese. If I don't make it in October, definitely like next spring.
Okay.
But this is an issue I'm sure a number of your your listeners may have. I own 2 6 hours.
Shame on you.
And that's it. I don't have anything else. What do we do, Greg?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a Glock guy.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to be a Glock guy for life.
You've made your position very clear on SIGs. So,
but no. So I hate how SIGs feel in my hand.
Okay.
I just hate how they feel in my hand.
Yeah.
Like when I pick it up, it's like, ugh. And here's the thing. I always tell people, like, I'm partially joking when I say like everything sucks outside of Glock, because if you have an XD, a Springfield XD, or you have a H&K USP, or you have a Sig Sauer, you have any of these high level manufacturers that are making guns, they're great guns. Mm-hmm. At that point, it becomes like the Chevy versus Ford argument.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I have my preference, and so we'll get in arguments and bust each other's balls, but just show up with a nice, reliable weapon. And if you're a SIG guy, you're a SIG guy. Like, do you know who Max Michel is? He's one of the best competition shooters on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. He actually shares the range with Greg Lappin, my business partner.
Okay.
And so, he's a Sig Sauer guy, and he's one of the best shooters in the world. So obviously they're good weapons. Yeah.
Well, it was actually, when I bought it, it was my dad's service weapon. So I kind of figured, like,
see, it's nostalgic.
If it's good enough for an entire police department, like it should be okay.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite authors, Jack Carr, he also is like big in SIGs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, as long as the thing that's important that you bring down there is a high quality weapon, a nice setup, meaning buy yourself a gun belt and have good magazine pouches and just some of the stuff that you need to have on your gun belt. Like, I think it's good to have like a dump pouch and a good holster too, a high quality holster. I think Safariland makes the best holsters in the world. Safariland, ALS. I forget what the automatic locking system, maybe. So the gun is locked into the holster until you press this thumb brake to release the gun. And if you're going to run, like, our whole thing is, this course is basically like combat pistol shooting. Now people will say, oh, when are you going to be in a combat pistol shooting scenario? You should be teaching drawing from concealed. Yeah, that might be more likely, but I think it's easier to teach the fundamentals of pistol shooting from that platform. And then you can graduate to drawing and shooting from the concealed position, you know, because all the fundamentals of marksmanship and firearm safety, they still apply.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, get yourself a good belt, a good holster, and there's plenty of SIG guys down there. So
right. Good to know.
But me and Greg are both Glock guys.
Okay.
You have any other questions about guns and gis? Because it might be my turn to make a shameless plug.
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah, I checked out this. So you need like 500 rounds?
Yep.
500 rounds. How many magazines? 4 magazines would be enough? Or?
Yeah, 4 would be plenty. 4? Okay. You know, on the range, typically I run 3 magazines.
Yeah.
Just because my gun holds 1 and then my pouch is for 2. But I actually am thinking about upgrading to a 3 pouch just for convenience. But yeah, 500 rounds, and you can ship that down there to Lappin's house. So it's waiting for you. Last time I went, I traveled with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I were to like drive there, what would be the best way?
You know, I like driving places because I like having my car.
Yeah.
So if you're up for a road trip and you could plan some other cool shit, like, yeah, of course that'd be good. Flying out of SeaTac, flying out of Seattle, for those who don't know, our airport's called SeaTac. It's kind of a nightmare with guns because you have to go declare it with your airline.
So you can't just put it in your bag and check your bag.
Well, no, you can, but you have to, when you're checking your bag, you have to go declare it. Then you have to take it to this place. It's called Station 2. It's a TSA checkpoint or check where they check your gun, and you have to unlock it. They have to swab it, and they have to do all of this fucking inspection bullshit. Then they see like the integrity of your case and how good your locks are. Like, I've traveled with my gun through Seattle on multiple occasions. And then the last time I traveled, the girl's like, this lock isn't like robust enough. You see how I can still pull the case open a little bit? I said, this lock's worked the last 5 times I've flown with this gun. And she goes, I don't make the rules. You know how it is. It's TSA, right?
Yeah, you get your deodorant through 5 times. And all of a sudden it's an issue.
And so the truth is, like, get a good quality locking case so you don't have to hear any bullshit from them. But I would just say, they say, like, it used to be 2 hours ahead for international travel, 1 hour for domestic. Dude, I was down there like 2.5 hours early.
An extra hour to wait in the gun.
To deal with gun bullshit.
Yeah.
But then when I flew home from New Orleans, I'm at the ticket counter and I'm like, hey, I have a firearm in my bag. And they're like, okay, cool. Have a nice day. So there's no continuity with how TSA deals with it.
Yeah.
Each airport kind of does their own thing. But yeah, dude, if you could fly down, or I mean, if you could drive down, I always prefer that. And that's a long ass drive though.
And then October, and then when's the next one?
We're going to try and do one every 6 to 8 weeks in Louisiana, as long as, I mean, it's supply and demand, right? But the reason we're not running them in the summer is because it's fucking miserable down there, right? And Lappin told me, he goes, outside of people that live here, no one's going to be willing to train, because we train 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
3 hours on the range, 3 hours on the mats for 3 days in a row. And if you're not conditioned to that Louisiana heat, I guess it'll
going down.
Yeah, you're going down.
Yeah, and it's tough to drink that like hot water all day long.
Yeah, unless you put some element in it.
Yeah.
More shameless plugs.
Yeah.
But we want to get my property up and running and be able to. We're going to run a slightly smaller camp up there, just because my gym's not as big as Lappin's, and maybe cap it at 20 people. But there's a bunch of red tape to go through.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like Washington State. Yeah. Trying to shooting range.
I mean, we're literally still dealing with the easement to get on the property, and everything's going good. I mean, both parties are in agreement. We've come up with a price and a procedure and everything, but it has to go through lawyers and be recorded with the county. And once you get lawyers and the county involved, everything starts to move like pond water. Like, dude, I love my attorney. Like, he's a cool guy and he's actually done a lot of good. But every time he calls, he'll go, hey, let me ask you, have you thought about, and I just straight up said, I said, hey, are you dragging out every single word since you know
it's bad news?
No.
Yeah.
Since you get paid by the minute? And he goes, well, that is kind of a lawyer tactic. And I was like, well, thank you for being fucking honest, bro.
I never thought about that. Because he admits it.
Yeah. And then every time, like, I'll ask him a question and he'll go, I'll tell you what, that's a very good question. And then he'll go into the answer. I was like, see, he just got 20 more seconds out of it, you know? And I mean, I think that's just how the game's played, but he's a cool guy and we're moving forward. But I've had a lot of people asking me like, dude, when will Guns and Geese, the Pacific Northwest, be available? And the truth is, I'm not going to set a date until we know shit have like, we're breaking ground, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, when I built my gym, it took 9 months to get through the permitting process. And we thought it would take like 2.
Yeah.
And so projects they usually become much, not only financially a bigger issue, but just a timeline as well. So we'll see when it happens, but hopefully by next summer. That's wishful thinking. We'll see, man. I'll keep everybody posted.
Cool.
Well, fuck, that's an hour and 40 minutes, dude.
Awesome, man.
That was a great podcast.
Yeah.
See, dude, like
it's my first podcast. So
you're sitting there like a professional, dude. It's awesome.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'm looking forward to reading the YouTube comments. I'm kind of excited for people to talk shit about me or whatever.
People talk shit, dude. People were talking shit about me or talking shit about the podcast the other day because I did an episode where it was just, sometimes I'll do audio only.
Yeah.
And that's for different reasons. But if I get an opportunity and I have to go somewhere, sometimes it's not logistically possible to bring all of this stuff. And then the other side of it is once you have video, production time is a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm getting an episode recorded and I'm trying to get it out in a quicker manner, but see that people don't understand everything that's happening on the backside. They're just like, why the fuck wasn't there video for this episode?
Yeah. They're just like, I want what I want now. Yeah.
So I'll put all your information in the show notes of this show, your restaurants. And so if anyone's listening, I know you're already busy, but go support and check out the restaurants because they're fucking rad. And
say hello. If you're a fan of the podcast, I'd love to meet more like-minded people in Los Angeles and start to, build my tribe up here a little bit. So
we'll leave with one last story because I don't even know if we mentioned it, but the way we linked up is I was in LA. I don't remember what I was doing down here. Was I doing jiu-jitsu with Joao or something?
I think so. Yeah. You brought Joao in. So.
And you hit me up on Instagram and you said, hey man, come check out my restaurant. Like I've been following you since the video and I did, and it was fucking awesome. And now here we are. So
yeah, well, I'm glad it worked out.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate you coming on and doing the show, and let's go get some food.
Let's do it.